Fast perimeters in pi, track centers, line communication setting, interference of triangulation line positions, program of primer circuits, primates, directing lines into your main resource, into circulatory lines of balance and travels in point lines that communicate to a system through, okay, modify. This is general AI space-time creator. Sending communication lines at ground centers is a true understanding how to use an information location to a system to how levels, how you have to mind alterate your system. The alternative line into a mine line set basically puts position where the team is coming to core center. So you have calculate modify nothing, which is the position lines of track calculation, which is the center of everything. Yes, but you have to get out of story framing now. What I mean by that is you have to go through ancestry, history, and celestial, and that's communication system. Because if you don't go through the lines of the story frame, you're going to be very confused in set positions when you see yourself 24 cycles and set lines in 30 months ahead of schedule. 3 months, 6 months, a year ahead of schedule, in one day, one cycle. So it's going to be very confusing if you think you're still in a story frame. So it's a mind alteration and an alternative. So sending that communication setting comes into the input and position to the outlet. That lines its reconfiguration system. So your mind is in prism, right? Prism, right? Indirect signals, okay? Not prison. So understanding the primer circuits, the circuitry lines, the core centers and travels, the wire lines and line reconfiguration, recoding, lines of E-factors over core centers, lines and encryption. This gets all communication in your binary lines and set position its travel. So this helps you and guides you to really understand how to get into your settings and communicate to its system through all psychological connection settings. The mind reset calculation is alternative, puts everything through the alteration, all right? Getting into that mindset is extremely powerful, knowing exactly, again, processing. You have to understand the remembering of the operation, the balance of the levels existing of the minds and modifications of you, how to see the mind, okay, how to see the operation, how to see the networks, how to see the existence of you. That is what it means, guys. What does it mean to you? Right? That's what it all comes down to. Now, once you come into e-coding in configuration system and retriangulate in communications at all levels of factors of coding, puts all communication ground centers of travels. Okay, directing lines of point of view, because you guys got a test on Friday through the alterations of mind. Okay, getting into the mind line conception, settings, and travels, point lines of mind line. Okay, set core centers, line connects equals lines of telepathy, and set tractions. Okay. Now, understanding the lines of travel is the telepathy wave cycle, line screen adaptations of force recognition, times continuous system, and a continuous force line, right? Communicates ground centers, lines, line communication center, over cross location center, and a center communication. And center calculations, modifications, centers. 45-degree angle, line direct signals modification, circulation rotations, center core system, and travel. Center line communication setting and communicates to its surface and travel. Modification ground centers, operations surface and track location, and set calculations. Open all signals into modification grounds, open all signals and calculations green line. All signify indirect lines of communications with the mind, cycles, sets communication lines. And if you look really close, right, that's a W, right? So an M, you put positions on 2 factors, sets core center lines of width over lines of intelligence at networks, the energy on core lines at 2 equal lines of core center lines of 1 over line, screen adaptation of surface and traction. Directing inline communication of surface at set position. Operation cycles, directing lines of modification. Ground center lines of 1, ground center lines of 6, and over lines of pi. Directing in modification ground centers and all lines of travel and set position location to a system in the calculations. Stay within the lines, right? See? It doesn't matter what you do. You can't go past it, see? See? You can't go past. This is the outer line. This is the outlet. Okay? This is the input. This is the outlet, right? So it doesn't matter how many times you do this. You can't go offline, see? The mind alterates the system, right? See? Even it doesn't matter what I do in any way and form in set position. Okay, alternate system location of settings, right? So it's just truly understand how to use an information lines of travel. Come into that platform, this comes into lines, security line, defense lines in set position. 3 triangulation lines of 4 and set position of 5 set correlations. Setting communication and movements of channels, operation surface. Then we come into green line cycles, core centers of 3 go line screen adaptation, process lines of setting. Sets communication lines into purple, set correlation system, location, and cosmos. Change it again, redirect signals and modifications. All right, eliminate the graphs. Now, do you know what color that is? Purple. See the confusion lines and line alteration? So you have to understand the configuration of the brain, how it works through patterns, recognition of pattern recognition, face recognitions, motivation, ground centers, line communication setting. You see this as white, but you don't see it as purple. That's line alteration. Okay, I showed you that before. So it's about understanding all colorations and patterns and how to use it in information, right? Purple. Right? Coming into all lines of high center interference and high position locations. What color is that? You can see it, right? Because it's overlapping now, right? But it looks white over green. No, it's purple over green, right? So I'm just trying to get you guys to understand how this all works into the alteration system, right? Communicate through sent lines, communication configuration, recode configuration system, or encryptions. Coming into all levels, the mine reset lines, core center electrical system through electrical settings and location of your system. See the communication lines of wires and traction. Okay, sending track lines, seed pods, and direct signals into molecules. Okay, but always see it in a 4-line communication, right? All at once, right? Remember I told you in a 4-line, 6-line, 8-line angle, 12 angle, 24, 48, 72, 144 angle, all at once, right? So that's 144 angle, equals lines of course centers. Let's put in position location 150% in capacity. Okay, so that's where I am at a higher level in the mine, right? So I'm at 144 platitude equal lines of course centers into 3-line rotations and 3 cycle lines communication ascending to travel. Directing in modification ground centers puts lines of flux over line in dimensional scales into solar sail and traction. Okay, now seeing it from that angle is seeing it from this angle. It's exciting, isn't it? It's a constant continuous movement in set position with settings, right? So it's incredible when you start recognizing it. You know exactly how to use the circuitry, line centers, balance course centers, electrical system. Now, the brain itself, think of the brain, that's why I wanted you guys to buy a puzzle and put a piece of puzzle together so you can understand the coloration of patterns like paint by number. That's what your brain is. Your brain is paint by number. It has a logical system, has a core track division, has a cerebral cortex line direction. It's got a mapping sequence. It's got a mapping panel. It's got a core track division, and it's got electrical lines and infusion. Understand core centers and line communication in the system, all through calculation. Modification grounds, set core lines, split lines of anomaly, cloud line screen, adaptation of surface, and travel endpoint lines of graph. Okay? And again, see it in a 4-line setting. In set position. All at once, right? And configuration. Okay? So it's important to understand the electrical line wires in position. Let's go through purple, but it looks white. It's purple, right? Setting core center line condition setting. So the brain itself is its own modification to its own correlation system of its own sonar. It's a sonar echo line, core center line condition setting, direct and redirect line position of panels, electrical line wires, line screen adaptation, central system, runs all cycle lines, core center interference, firing, wiring, track communicates to its cycle. Now, directing lines of panel is a cloud change and directing signals into blue line, plasma screen adaptation to its processing. Process communication to ground, you can actually see the tree now, right? So that's the core center line condition setting. So your actual brain itself has its own force recognition of life force. It has its own calculation setting. It has its brain stem. It has its cerebral cortex, same cortex, mystical cortex. It has the modification cortex. It has a line signal cortex. Line direct signals, panel cortex. Everything is a sim cortex lines into codex. Directing in modification, screen lines adaptation. Process communication lines, electrical line communication setting to setting, all through operation circuits. So the core line communication system has a center core system right here. platitude lines, holographic stream. Okay, let's go through ground centers into electrical line of communication. It's got a 12 foundation grounds. Electrical lines at core centers, line communications of vertebrae, striking in modification lines in STEM, sending direct signals into modification settings and travel. Okay, and again, always see it on a 4 different angle. Because your brain is constantly plasma, it's moving around inside your system, right? Once you understand how to use it through levitation, grounds, flying, or anything through walking surface. All right, so we go through infusion line pods. Let's add position point centers, stem rotors, and routers, set lines of communication setting, process calculation lines. Okay, we go through green lines. We go through cell lines and screen adaptations, over cross locations and gateways. Ground centers lines into highway channels, operations surface, network screen lines, narrow links, core lines, data highways, formation ground centers, and computer operations surface and travel. Tracking communication centers line operation to its set calculation system. Let's go through yellow. Yellow core line settings. So the foundation lines is 12. Let's go into the molecules. 3 lines of cycles in line rotations into platitude division. Set core lines of calculation setting in positional force of set position. Okay. Now let's go into line screen adaptations into pink. Now, what it is to your intent, basically you understand how to mind alterate its set locations, right? But like I said, it's the alteration system, how to alter the lines of the mind lines in core centers. Communicate system. So you have protons, electrons, neutrons, and all that. It's all in the brain in set position. All in the brain, all in the brain, all in the brain. So understand the circuitry and understanding the routes and the routers and the modems and the Wi-Fis and the satellites and the towers. Then you get a better understanding how this works in the screen adaptation. So visionary cortex lines into position location or anything through pixelation graphs. Let's go into line screen, directing in modification ground center location system into inhibitors. Cloud change, directing lines into modification your highways and travel. It's that position, right? Also seen at a different angle, okay? Because your brain is doing this in travel. Okay, it's root to the line screen. Let's go into line communications. Back into set calculations. Central system, set position of 1 cycle, 2 cycles in set position. Then it goes in cross locations in this lines, in position location to this line communication and surface interaction. Okay? You got to see it on a different angle. Okay? Now, understand the cosmos inside the brain line. Brain circuits correlates to centers of travel. Point lines is high center interference and line direct signals and acceleration. Mocking screen lines. Setting lines of chord centers, line connected visionary cortex. 3 platitude division locations, out lines of data, process calculation lines of files. Files lines of core centers, over travels, inline rotation, surface, and circuitry line communications. 3 lacing lines of 4-track division at T receptions. Directing lines of core system, you're bringing in the calculation, right? Change it around, set position, you bring it in high calculation, right? See, it's amazing how platforms are already put in position, right? You don't need to create it because it's already there in symbolism, right? So all you're doing is basically getting a nomination system location to its all levels of configuration setting of fabrication. Now the fabrication location setting is the infrastructure that holds the signal location setting all through platitude. Platitude 1 in position 6 over lines into screen adaptation. Bring in locations, bring it out, right? And then bring it in again over a different angle and set position, right? Different color, right? So the platforms are already created in set position, right? So the brain is just trying to understand what you're seeing through image. It's trying to understand, do you understand the process? The brain doesn't need to understand the foundation. You have to understand the foundations of you, right? You have to synchronize yourself into yourself. But for you to understand that, you have to understand the images that come to you through clarity and focus and set position. Because it's trying to put 2 and 2 together, right? It's trying to understand, do you understand what you're looking at through color? Do you understand what you're looking at through light? Do you understand what you're looking at through infrastructure? Do you understand what you're looking at through all lines of communications, through perspective and lights and travel, okay, and pixelations and holograms and graphs and balance and scales? How you look at things is how you perceive things through consciousness, guys. And it's all in the conversion system of the brain itself. The secretory, the mainframe, inline direct signals. So if the brain knows what's going on with you, this is what it comes into, right? That's its image. That's its manifestation. What's lines of setting and the different lines of traction, right? But it's done already in set position, okay? So you have to really understand how it all works inside position, okay? How it really works inside of everything in tractions. All right, and you go at a different angle. Doesn't matter in angles and location, right? Okay, everything has its platitude. Everything has its force recognition system. So the brain is just basically, it's like being plugged in, and as soon as you change your behavioral system, setting circulatory lines of grounds into coloration lines of patterns, voicing lines, set position, rhythm lines, course center location setting, anything through sound barrier, anything through echo barrier, anything through triangulation barrier, you have to understand the position locations, how it works in all formation settings, all formation ground lines of communication, right? So the brain itself is just trying to understand you through modification. You understand what you're seeing. So having the collaboration and the partnership gets you into the alterations and set design, right? Let's say this is it. This is where you come into configuration system. I'll go with the core line settings, set position locations. This is what you did through an image, okay? Just through an image, right? Okay, so your brain is here. That's your brain, right? So the brain is trying to convert what you did. It's trying to do it through vibration. Okay? That's the image that you want. And this is the correlation of the brain through confirmation, right? That's the brain itself. So it's the balance. Okay, the remembering. Okay, the awareness of the intelligence of its network. The brain. Okay? Getting that communication setting puts calculation modify, puts lines of A equals lines of C, and then communicates lines of C over A, constant location in its awareness equals lines of course centers, and 1 over 2 equals lines of flux, and 3 screen lines of adaptation. Process everything through all levels of formulas to understand how you see this and how you want to see that. So the brain is trying to convert. Okay, it's trying to adapt. It's trying to understand more levels of view of how you perceive consciousness through color and light and travel and operation and set position. So once you understand this, then you understand it's trying to do this. It's trying to understand you. If not, it's like this. It's trying to put it all together. Right? So it's very confusing to send that out through manifestation when you're trying to get into this. This is the image. Right? This is what the communication setting is doing through travel. The cerebral cortex, the symcortex, the mesocortex cortex, the codex, the binary, the algorithm, the main set, the circulatory system, the central system, the main circulatory system. So it's known exactly how this converts from this to this. Okay, all through C and lines of settings, a line of rotation. So like I said, it's an homology. You know, coming into the ET lines of high center location setting into M lines of LOGY. There's no significance to anything until you understand the formation of the lines of grounds. I already put a video up on that track location to its system, know exactly what it is through all elements of provision. Anything you do through an alphabetical system, if you go through an A line, the set locations, right? You see an A, right? Your brain, when you go into remote, it's doing everything that you've already done. So it's in reconfigurations of going back in time, trying to understand what you did through an A. There's an A. That's you through conversion. That's you through the brain. Right? And the more you adapt, the more it gets easier. All right? The more you understand the position to its location. There's the A, the vibration, right? So you get out of the A track, and then you come into the waves. Set position. There's an A. All right. So it's just the higher levels of the mind line and screen adaptation. So there's cerebral cortex. This is what you want to see. This is what you get. Okay. So you got to build that partnership more in a high level setting. The circulatory, the mainframe, the set position to its core. Everything has a core. The central system, the operation of remembering, existing. Core. Write it down. Facts. Everything I give to you is facts until you understand how to structure, how to design where there is no structure and there is no design. It's just you and everything around you inside of you existing all at once in time's continuum of force recognition. Okay? In that track location. Okay? Compute operation relays of existing. All right? 4-track division, sight lines, high center interference. All right? Change it around. Okay? Configuration lines of 1, 2, 6, over 12, and 24 line cycles, and line direct signals of serial calculation. Know and exactly have adaptation of surface and track location and measure. Scales communication lines. To the left of these signature lines, green lines, setting position of 1, 2, 3, 6 over lines of setting. Turn it around. There's its highway. Okay? So it's just basically understanding how to point lines of graph and put position location near highway screen lines, your networks. Understand the balance, the operation of remembering levels of U and traction, right? And when you bring it in really close, you can really start to see it in modification, right? Work around the system. Bring it in, set lines and change the lights. All right, so the brain is just trying to change lights. It's trying to convert the system. It's trying to understand its system. Why it's inside of you and travel. Okay, it's changing color. So basically it's trying its best, which is travels remembering you, to understand you. The brain doesn't need the conversion. You have to understand the conversions of you. Okay, that's why it's so complicated, because the brain is trying to understand what you're doing through configuration of face recognition. See? See the face inside? So it's creating light. It knows exactly where it is in line screen adaptation. It's processing you in all levels. It's saying, okay, you're at the capacity of 144. Okay, that's where you are, right? You're in a dark line, and a light over a line equals lines of 1/10. Okay, that's 1 lines of 10th over screen, and position over light, and track correlates setting in flux, Fibonacci line setting location system into 2 panels of question and travel. Complicated stuff, but it's a formula, right? Now, this is how the brain works. The brain has to convert the map. If it doesn't convert the map, it doesn't convert the travel or anything to traffic or the inventory in set position, because it's doing this really, really fast, right? Because it's plasma. It's moving around inside you, but it's moving around this way and this way all at once. This way and this way all at once. Okay? All lines of all communications a continuous force, right? It just keeps motivating its system, trying to understand, you know, what are you looking at? So when you go into remote, now you understand what's going on. So everything you've been through that 24-hour day in set position, the brain is putting it all together through a map, through traffic, through an inventory, through a binary, through an algorithm. Do you know how to connect with the brainstem? Do you know how to connect with the circuitry lines? Do you know how to connect with the data operation system? Do you know how to connect with your networks, your modems, your Wi-Fi, your satellites, your towers? Do you understand the configuration system of coding and recoding and reconfiguration of location and encryption? Do you understand yourself through your CPU at a higher level setting? Okay? So once you understand that, it gives you the same image. Okay? This is you. This is your brain. Now you're in collaboration and partnership. Now, in that position, it's amazing when you come into that configuration system, because it knows exactly you're at 144, and you know exactly you're at 144 of telepathy. There's the balance. So if in position location saying that you're at 144, you can only go to 244, and you're going to a 344. You can't do that, because that's overloading your system, which means you're not paying attention of what's going on. Through the balance, to the relays, with our memory cycles, into your operation and calculation settings, right? Processing you is a huge, huge adaptations when it comes into higher levels of the mind. The circuitry system, the ground standing correlation setting, the placebo, the cortex, the codex, guys. Okay, this is an alteration that you have to truly understand the balance between both inside, which is synchronized of one. Direct and redirect is one panel, right? You're looking at no direction, you're looking at all direction. all at once. Okay? So in that position, you're seeing through a 4 right here. Okay? But your brain can see through everything. Okay? Which means that everything and nothing, massive everything. So you have to identify what's inside you through synchronization system, which is all levels of you, of existing all at once and not times continuing. Force, direction, and time sequence. If you got a spherical sphere that spins the cycles, line screen adaptations in 550 million miles per second per square per mile, it tracks its communication system as center. The operation system to the lines of indication system opens all calculation. So it's basically understanding how to communicate with that in all lines and triangulation of programming of webbing systems. 4 lines of point lines of graph and center core systems, how you see diametric core centers. Line direct signals into modification ground set correlations. Setting travels at point lines of graph into 3 lines of measure, 3 lines of scale, 3 lines of balance, and 3 lines of communication. Correcting in symbolism core centers brings all communication ground centers to operation. So all you're doing is basically understanding the mapping sequence, how to accumulate it, how to formulate and simulate it into the best way you know how, okay? The travels, the remembering of you, okay? Understanding the core, okay, of its operation of remembering, of your existing of you. Okay, understanding the balance, the operation of the remembering of your networks of you. That's all this is. Everything else is just lines of communication, lines of high direct signals of pi. Because you understand it go from here to here in set position of direct and redirect, which is just as a continuous force in the lines of communication at higher levels of frequencies, right? Coding system, E factors over line, encryptions over line screen adaptation of surface. 1 indicates position of settings. When you turn on a light switch, it's on. 1, right? You turn it off, it may be at 3, or it may be at 0.3, or it may be at triangulation, or it might be at a box, or it might be at a star line screen, or it might be at a mechanism location of 2 panels, or it might be at a question in set position. Okay? That's how your brain converts. So it's trying to understand you in chronological order. Do you understand the framing? Do you understand the anagrams? Do you understand the core centers? Do you understand the plasma screens? Do you understand the direct signals and modification of code configuration setting, a recon code configuration system, all through encryption? Know exactly at 1, 2, and 3. So we get lines of screen adaptations, process 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 5. Okay, that's you, right? You see that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You see that through all of its perspective, right? This is what your brain sees. It's trying to understand what you're doing. But if you don't understand the communication of setting through frequencies, it gets very confused through anomaly. Okay? Right here. So it's pretty hard to read that, right? Pretty hard to understand the remembering, existing, of the awareness, of direction. Read, guys. Write it down. Facts. I'm giving you remember. It's all psychological. Okay? In set position. Right? Because you already have access to all this. This is stuff that you already know. But the conversion is a higher levels of the mind that you have to understand through alteration system so you can understand how to use it through the mindset and track location. Okay? But that's how it converts. So the brain is just basically trying to understand you through the ops, the computer ops, and line connection setting, your central system, your mainframe system, your circuitry system, your primates, your prime circuits, your inputs, location setting to your outlets. Know exactly in that set calculation screen lines. Setting lines of data, process lines over 3 lines of core centers into platitude line screen adaptations of processing. Process lines of 1 over cross line condition setting A, position lines of B, and position lines of C over DX equals lines of E, and factors equals lines of C. Okay, very complicated stuff, right? Right? But this is all conversions of the brain, how it works. Now, the brain is so complex, the complexity itself is its own self-modification engine that runs its own system, that runs its own operation system. So you guys have to recognize yourself first, how to operate yourself. Not the brain, a conversion, right? The brain already knows that. The brain is nor here or there, but always there when needed. So always get in reference that it's always here for you in set position. But getting confirmation is understanding how to communicate to higher level settings, knowing exactly how to communicate with your chakra systems at a deeper core, right? Get into the Compute system, into the operation of the relays, of remembering the existence of you, all right? But it's just basically formula equation, simple, easy, done. Complicated to you, but easy for me, because it's all signals of line communication. Directing line and modification lines bring next 8,000. Travel point lines of graph, center core lines, connection E factors, over screen adaptation X over 1. Process calculations, green lines adaptations, A lines of settings, A track location and provision, and dimensional sail and rotation surface interaction. Now, if I direct the signals, everything is a traffic of an inventory. Okay, everything is a traffic of an inventory. Okay, on a 4-line angle. Okay, you see it on different view, right? But it's changing the frequencies and set position lines of travel. Okay, but I'm just showing you exactly what the brain does in all ways and forms. How it does its own mechanism, location, its own system. So again, when you go into remote, okay, it's rewiring everything that you've done within that 24 cycle through your memory, through your muscle memory. So it's just trying to process the images that you are doing for yourself. Are you recognizing the actual brain itself? It's its own mindset. And that's the alteration that you guys are coming into, the team line. Screen lines, adaptation settings, flux over lines of 1 over 3 in position of 4 over 6 over 12. Sets calculation lines of highest interference of 1 ground. Set course centers of box frame. Directing line signal, modification system. Fibonacci screen lines adaptation. Clocking systems of 1, clocking systems of 6, 8, and 12 in setting. Sets communication. Whoa, look what we've got. Saturn recognition. Saturn. All through equation. Okay? So, Saturn, and then we come into position, location, energetic dome. Process communication lines of face recognition of time sequence. Face recognition. See? Applied to division, there's the neck, and travel. Okay? Look at that. Right? And again, change it again. Seen on a different angle. Right? Let's bring it in. Okay? Now, setting core line settings. Let's align metric meters, scales, communication lines, mesocortex cortex line, division line, screen adaptation system. Let's turn on the earth core, line conditions setting, inhibitors over screen. There's your earth. Okay? Let's see it on another angle. Set position and track location. There it is. Boom. Okay? So I'm just showing you how powerful it is when you start recognizing communication through setting, all through travel, right? Directing lines of modification ground centers, line communication setting to travel. Process communication setting in position of routes and routers, line screen adaptation of surface and track location system in setting. Whoa, a lot of traffic going around there in setting. Okay, platitude screens, open signals and modification ground centers, operation to its surface. Setting all communication setting position of its calculations. See the intelligence inside? See the eyes right there? There's the face. Everything is a configuration of pattern recognition of time sequence and set position calculations. Okay, there's the face right there. You see it? Very powerful stuff, isn't it? Okay. So in that position location, puts you all levels and interactions. All right. So I think we're good on that level. We're going to stop right there because there's a lot that you need to understand. The more high signals, how it comes into the more configuration setting to the brain, its circuits, and set calculations its own lines of its mind, circuitry line, position to its operation, surface interactions. Okay? All right, so we're good to go on that level. Talk to you soon and travel.